Hello everyone, welcome back. I'm Bumi and today we are watching the Dyatlov Pass case by Lemmino. Yeah, this one was suggested by Brunzio over here. And yeah, the Dyatlov Pass, I have no idea what this is. Yeah, I really don't know. The name sounds Russian, so I'm guessing this is like a DB Cooper level of mystery. If Lemino made a video about it, so yeah, it's it's refreshing to find like mystery videos from Russia. I'm not even sure if this is from Russia. I'm just going by the name. The name sounds Russian, so I'm guessing this is somewhere in Russia. So yeah, it's very refreshing to find like some mysteries in Russia because we normally get them like in America or somewhere in Europe. But yeah, let's just go ahead and see what this is all about. And by the way, I apologize if you keep hearing a lot of barking. The neighborhood dogs are really at it this evening, so there you go. And remember, if you like my reactions, don't forget to leave a like, let me know your thoughts on the video down in the comment section below, and consider subscribing. Also, don't forget to leave your suggestions and what I should check out next. And yeah, I'm sorry if it's taking a while for me to react to them. Sometimes they get backlogged or I forget to queue them up, and then it gets delayed even further when I have a lot of like video uploads queued up for basically scheduled to be released. So yeah, just keep them coming. If I don't react to them, just keep on letting me know and I'll bump it up the queue. So yeah, that being said, let's go ahead and watch the video.
In early 1959, a group of hikers decided to head out on an expedition across the mountainous region of Western Soviet Union.
Hey, so it is Russia.
9 experienced men and women greatly familiar with the
I
Siberian
was right.
wilderness. Yet, this adventure would prove to be their last. Despite a criminal investigation, photographs and journal entries, the case remains unsolved after more than half a century.
Half a century. So I'm guessing this is not just some like normal avalanche victims if they're treating this as if they need it needs to be solved for over half a century then.
This is the case of Dyatlov Pass. In the early morning of January the 23rd, 1959, a ski and hiking team of 10 boarded a train headed for the Ural Mountains in the middle of the Soviet Union. The group consisted of 8 men and 2 women, with Igor Dyatlov as the group's leader. As the train slowly advanced deep into the mountainous Siberian taiga, the group diary received a final entry. I wonder what awaits us on this hike. Will anything new happen?
Ooh,
Over the
famous
next
last
few
words
days,
right
the
there.
group continued to alternate between modes of transportation. First a bus, then a truck, then a horse and sleigh, and eventually they proceed on foot and skis. On January the 28th, one of the hikers named Yuri Yudin had begun to feel quite ill and eventually decided to head back, while the remaining group of 9 continued as planned. These photos were taken just before they parted ways, and it would be the last time he saw his friends alive. The group resumed their expedition across the snow-covered outback and documented
So I'm guessing he's the only one that survived because he went down early.
everything of note using diaries as well as multiple cameras. Recovered photos and journal entries suggest that the trek progressed as one would expect, with no unforeseen complications. Just lots of snow, bitter cold, and an increasingly arduous landscape. On February the 1st, they reached the foot of a mountain known to the indigenous Mansi population as Dead Mountain. They spend the better part of the day progressing up the slope and eventually decide to set up camp only a few hundred meters from the peak. These are some of the last photos recovered from the cameras, and the last sentence of the final entry reads, It is difficult to imagine such a comfort on the ridge, with shrill, howling wind hundreds of kilometers away from human settlements. A few weeks later, friends and relatives begin to worry. No one has heard from Igor or any of the other members of the group. After much debate, a team of volunteers eventually head out to find them. On February the 26th, the search party is finally able to locate the camp on the slope. It's obvious to the first at the scene that something has gone horribly wrong.
Doesn't look like an
The tent is
avalanche.
in shambles, covered by a thin coat of snow. The hikers' belongings and equipment was found orderly placed inside the tent, but the tent itself had been slashed open with a knife from the inside. The next day...
What? No, this isn't a like murder mystery, right?
9 pairs of footprints lead the search volunteers down the slope towards the nearby woods. Given that the footprints left rather mild indentations in the snow, would suggest that they descended the slope in a rather calm and orderly fashion, as opposed to running away in panic.
Yeah, so this isn't a murder then.
Half a kilometer from the tent until the trail was completely covered by snow. So they continued in the direction of the trail and under a large cedar tree at the edge of the forest, next to the remains of an improvised campfire, they found the frozen bodies of Yuri Doroshenko and Yuri Krivonoshenko.
Man.
It would take over 2 months for the bodies of all 9 hikers to be recovered. The first 2 were found severely underdressed. No jackets, no pants, no gloves, hats, boots, or anything else one might expect given the frigid climate.
Now, in cases like these, I'm guessing that they stripped off their clothing because I've heard that when you get frostbite, it basically like mimics. I don't know if frostburn is the correct term for it, but it basically mimics like your body is feeling like a burning sensation. That's probably why they stripped off their clothes, because it felt like they were on fire. That's just my guess, because there's no I can't find any other logical reason why they would be naked like this, especially since Lemmino pointed out that they left the camp in an orderly fashion.
Only light shirts, underpants, and socks. At the time of their death, it would have been around 30 degrees below zero.
Yeah.
The cedar tree had signs of damage, as if someone had climbed it, with branches broken up to 5 meters high. Perhaps they were attempting to locate a tent in the pitch-black darkness, or perhaps they were trying to hide from someone or something.
I am curious though. This is gonna get a little bit sidetracked, of course. Off topic. I'm curious if climbing a thick tree like that would be like more beneficial in terms of shielding yourself from the cold, because I know that the higher you go up, the colder the wind might be. So wind-wise, it might be better to stay on the ground, but wouldn't the bushes of the trees or the leaves the leaves of the trees protect you enough from the cold winds? I don't know. I don't live in a cold climate, so I'm genuinely curious.
The next 3 hikers were found at varying distances between the tent and the tree, covered by a few centimeters of snow. They were better dressed than the previous 2, but not by much, as they still lacked essential items such as boots, hats, and gloves. They were all found facing the direction of the tent, as if they were struggling to return at the moment of death. While some of them had sustained minor injuries, all 5 had died of hypothermia. It should also be noted that 4 of them had died while intoxicated. The last 4 hikers were found at the bottom of a
probably
small
didn't
hill,
help.
covered by 3 meters of snow, 75 meters from the tree in the opposite direction of the tent. 3 of them had sustained lethal injuries. 1 had a fractured skull, and 2 had fractured multiple ribs and suffered massive internal bleeding. The medical examiner believed the injuries had been sustained from a fall and compared it to a car crash. The injuries had been sustained while they were all
Probably,
alive and could not have been inflicted by another person.
probably that's the guy that or girl that fell from the tree.
2 had also been found with gaping eye sockets, and one of the women had a missing tongue. The last of the 4 had a broken nose and a
What?
deformed neck, but died of hypothermia. The most mysterious of all, 3 articles of clothing were later found to be abnormally radioactive.
Okay. Of all the shit that I was expecting, I did not expect radioactive clothing. Let's get that straight. Um, I'm guessing that the gouge out eyes and missing tongue is probably just some animals, I think. But yeah, the radioactive clothing is kinda sus though. I wonder how that happened.
On May the 28th, the criminal case was discontinued with a cryptic and incredibly vague conclusion. The lead investigator writes in the final report, "The cause of death was an unknown compelling force which the hikers
Okay.
were unable to overcome." Not exactly the most satisfying answer and
Yeah.
barely a conclusion at all. So, just in case the Galactic Empire had nothing to do with the death of the hikers, is it possible to explain some of the more enigmatic details in a less vague
It's never aliens, guys. Aliens should be the last thing that we blame for stuff like these.
yet credible fashion? Let's give it a shot. The fact that
Okay.
Dubinina was missing her tongue has been taken way out of proportion. Some say that it was cut off or ripped out while she was still alive. Others say it was eaten by scavengers after
Yeah.
death, while
Animals.
some even claim the tongue was later found somewhere else. But
What?
I've read the medical reports, and this is what it says. The diaphragm of the mouth and the tongue is missing. That's it. There's nothing about cutting or ripping or anything. I don't know
Huh.
how or where it began, but there seems to be an exaggerated importance placed on this missing tongue, while in reality, it's a rather minor detail. At least the medical examiner believed it to be a minor detail, otherwise he would likely have elaborated further. For example, the same section of the same report states, "Gaping orbits, the eyeballs are absent." Equally mysterious, right? Well,
Yeah.
no, because the medical examiner does provide an explanation for both. Soft tissue injuries to the head are post-mortem changes to Dubinina's corpse, which was recently exposed to water prior to detection. He even adds putrefaction and decomposition in parentheses to clarify exactly what he means. And this was not even exclusive to Dubinina, as the 4 last bodies were all damaged due to the melting snow. Now, some who claim that her tongue must have been removed while she was still alive have pointed to the fact that she had about 100 grams of blood in her stomach. But that's not exactly true either. The relevant portion of the forensic examination reads, "The stomach contained up to 100 cubic centimeters of a dark red, slimy mass." That's about
Ooh.
10 centiliters of something, most likely food, mixed with something red, most likely blood. So we don't know how much
Yeah.
blood was in her stomach, just that there was blood in her stomach.
So a lot of the medical reports were like probably blown out of proportion by mass media,
Which isn't that strange,
which made it more confusing.
given that she was suffering from massive internal bleeding.
Here we go.
One
This
of
is
the
the
most
part that I'm
mysterious aspects of this
most
case is
excited
that
to know.
3 separate articles of clothing discovered on 2 of the bodies were found to be radioactive, which does indeed sound a bit mysterious, but you have to keep in mind that almost everything is slightly radioactive. So we need more details. The radiological
In a
studies
sense,
claim
true.
that under normal circumstances, an area of 150 square centimeters should not exceed 5,000 disintegrations per minute. Only 3 articles of clothing exceeded or equaled that limit at 5,000 dpm, 5,600 dpm, and 9,900 dpm. The only explanation given in the report is that the clothes were contaminated as radioactive dust fell from the atmosphere, or the clothes were susceptible to contamination when in contact with radioactive substances. In other words, they were unable to determine exactly how the clothes were contaminated, but it's not unrealistic to believe it to be a result of natural processes. But just in case it wasn't due to the elements, there may be an alternative explanation. Kolevatov had previously worked at a facility developing nuclear materials, and Krivonoshenko had previously worked at a top-secret plutonium production plant for nuclear weapons. And the
There you
3
go.
articles of radioactive clothing belonged to Kolevatov and Krivonoshenko.
I mean, I don't really know how it works with those kinds of facilities, but don't they have like checkpoints? In and out checkpoints? Um, I mean, if again, I'm not a nuclear scientist, so please don't bash me on this. I would expect like at least the entrance or exits have, if not to deter like nuclear material with nuclear material or nuclear waste theft, they would at least have sensors to determine if something is still radioactive. Because I think common sense wise, you wouldn't want like nuclear, oh no, not nuclear, radioactive things just going out of your plants, right? I mean, maybe it's just me, but here we go. On screen, we have aliens.
Around the time of the hiker's disappearance, numerous sources claim to have seen UFOs in the form of orbs of light moving across the night sky for a few seconds up to several minutes.
These damn
These include
orbs of
3
light.
soldiers and 2 different hiking groups. Some witnesses also claim that the indigenous Mansi population, as well as a group of geologists, had told them that they had observed fireballs in the sky around the time of the incident.
Probably
the
just
problem with UFO sightings is that they
space
are
debris.
well unidentified and often unverifiable as a result. Only one of the hiking groups reported to have seen the UFO during the night of the incident, while the other sightings occurred before or after. Then there's this. This is the very last photo taken with one of the hikers' cameras. It appears to be a photo of some type of light source taken in the middle of the night. Unfortunately, the photo is about as undescriptive as the UFO it is claimed to depict.
Nah, that could be anything. Unless if there was a timestamp, which I don't see anywhere, if I'm not mistaken. Let me check. No, I don't see a timestamp. So this, I doubt this is anything UFO related.
It could no doubt be a photo of a UFO, and it could no doubt be a photo of a candle, flashlight, fire, stove, or anything else.
There you go.
Let's assume that it is a photo of something in the night sky. What could it potentially be depicting? I can think of a few possibilities. A rocket, a piece of a rocket, man-made space debris during re-entry,
Space debris.
a crashing aircraft, or perhaps a meteor. None of which would be too surprising given that this is the Soviet Union in the middle of the Cold War as well as the space race, so there would have been a lot of aerial activity. At the time when space exploration was about as fresh as a prince living in an affluent LA neighborhood, it's not surprising that people were unable to identify the mysterious lights. Regardless, it could not have landed close to the hikers as it would have been found by the search teams. And if the object had already been recovered, there should have been evidence in the form of a crash site, footprints, and other activity on the ground. So, given the fact that there is no obvious connection between the UFO and the hiker's disappearance, I'll put this in the spooky red herring box.
Yeah,
So,
that was just
what
nothing.
happened? Why did they leave the tent? Why was it slashed open from the inside? How did some of them sustain such major injuries while the others simply succumbed to the cold? Why were so many of them underdressed? I think the biggest mystery is how it's been able to remain a mystery given the abundance of information. So after spending the better part of this month hiring multiple Russian translators reading through a massive amount of material ranging from theories about a KGB cover-up to a simple avalanche accident, this is...
Wow, I did not even consider a cover-up. Because we have that one guy working in a top secret nuclear weapons facility, right? So it wouldn't be too far-fetched to think that somebody from the KGB would have followed them. Not on foot, mind you. Probably on like a helicopter or something and then parachuted down. Then again, no, not parachuted, roped down. Then again, there would have been evidence for that. I mean, who knows, man? Who knows how the KGB operated?
What I believe to be the most credible explanation.
For what I know, they could have
First of all,
already
why
been
would
there
they
just
leave the
waiting
tent?
for them.
That seems to be the most important missing piece of the puzzle. I would argue that the only thing that could make them leave would have to be an immediate threat inside the tent. If something was outside, such as an animal or a UFO, then there would be no reason to cut the tent open. There were no signs of an avalanche, however, they could have escaped believing an avalanche was tumbling towards them. The problem with that theory is that the footprints show them walking in a calm and orderly
Yeah,
manner down the
that
slope,
would
as
contradict the
opposed to running away in
footprints.
panic. So something caused them to panic inside the tent, but once outside, they calmed down and made a conscious decision to walk down the slope. Now, take a look at this photo. The pipe sticking out of the tent entrance
Stove?
is the exhaust pipe of the internal stove. This was a completely unique and
Could have been a
homemade
stove
design,
accident.
as the leader of the group had built the stove himself. We know they had used the stove on the night of the incident before the incident took place, as partially eaten pieces of fried ham and bacon were found inside the tent. I think
Ooh.
that after disassembling the stove and removing
Bacon
the
and a
exhaust
camping
pipe,
trip?
the embers inside the
Luxurious.
stove were accidentally reignited. As the exhaust pipe had been removed, the smoke would have filled the tent in seconds.
Yeah, I was. I'm sorry. Another off-topic tangent here. I was thinking, how could they bring like meat along on their journey? Wouldn't that spoil? Then it clicked that they are in the cold region, so they basically are, well, practically they're walking on like a huge refrigerator as opposed to my previous camping trips where it's very hot in here and meat spoils immediately.
As they attempted to get control of the flame, they cut a few
Sorry
holes
about
at the
that.
top of the tent to vent the smoke. When that didn't work and it became increasingly difficult to breathe, the side of the tent was slashed open and they all escaped in a state of panic. There's even more evidence to support this theory. Several members of the group were found with burn marks on both their bodies and clothing, which could
Yeah.
definitely have been a result of the improvised fire under the tree, or perhaps a scalding hot metal stove. Some of them were also found with blood around
That was
their mouth,
risky.
and coughing up blood could be a symptom of smoke inhalation. Then there's this photo, taken the day before the incident. The jacket has obviously been burned, but the question is how? It's possible that sparks from the stove had accidentally set the jacket aflame. Okay, so they make it outside and quickly realize what a terrible situation they're in. Sub-zero temperatures, no shelter, underdressed, in the middle of a snowstorm, in the middle of the night, in the middle of nowhere. At this point, I think one or more of them made a decision to head for the nearest shelter, which they would have known to be the woods. The reasoning behind this decision is likely multifaceted. The smoke from the tent could have made it impossible to stay within its proximity, or the smoke may have caused them to believe that the tent was on fire. Some of them were intoxicated, which could have affected their judgment as well as their sensibility to the cold. And they may also have believed to be closer to the woods than they actually were. So they finally reached the woods and immediately set out to make a fire. Some climbed a tree and scavenged the surrounding area, while those who are more properly dressed head a bit deeper into the woods. About 75 meters from the tree, 4 of them trigger a minor avalanche, taking them over the edge of a ravine with a drop of about 3 meters. As the bottom is filled with rocks and ice, they sustain lethal injuries.
I mean, like small rivers like these could, or I don't think this is even a river, but yeah, if there's flowing water, there's a good chance that there are sharp rocks somewhere near that. So even a 3 meter drop could be fatal.
3 of the other 5 hikers decide to head back for the tent, while the remaining 2 slowly freeze to death around a fading flame.
Oof, that is rough, man. Wow. Hey, Team C's. Yeah, I'm not part of that campaign yet. Soon, maybe soon. But yeah, that was the Dyatlov Pass incident. Very interesting. Oh man, what captivated me the most was the radioactive part, clothing part. Um, yeah, I mean, it must be some strong radioactive waste or something to linger on for that long, because if I recall correctly, they were both no longer working for the labs, right? That had the radioactive stuff in them. So those clothes that they wore that are still radioactive are still technically burning with radioactivity at that point. That was really interesting. I did not expect that. But yeah, how come nobody has even, well, they did say that it is mysterious. Then again, they're also very far away, probably at that time, very far away from the nearest like civilization. So um the police probably wasn't able, or anyone who's investigating it probably took at least a couple of days to get to the site itself to investigate, and by then a lot of things could have happened. But yeah, that was really interesting and a really good video as well. But that's gonna be it for me today, guys. Link to my Twitter is down in the description below. Go to check it out if you want to. I don't know why I'm still plugging it, but there you go. If you're new here and enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like. Let me know your thoughts on the video down in the comment section below, and consider subscribing. Shut up, from. Also, don't forget to leave your suggestions on what I should check out next. I promise that I will be watching them as soon as I can, but there are probably other videos queued up on schedule, so it probably take a couple of weeks before it shows up on my channel. Regardless, I'm sorry, but yes, please keep them coming. I really do enjoy your video suggestions. But yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all next time. Bye.